Before we begin, if you're fascinated by hidden layers of history, erased narratives and monuments that may not be what they seem, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. The deeper we go, the more questions emerge, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now imagine walking through a grand European square in the late 19th century. The air is cold, the streets are wide, and standing at the center is a monument dedicated not to a king, not to a general, not even to a named hero, but to something strangely anonymous. A statue labeled only as the architect, another called the engineer. No first names, no dates, no personal story, just titles. Why would entire continents raise expensive monuments to people who seemingly never existed? In city after city during the 1880s and early 1890s, a curious pattern emerged. Public squares across Europe and the Americas unveiled statues honoring abstract professions rather than identifiable individuals. These figures were sculpted with remarkable realism, detailed facial features, precise tools in hand, clothing reflecting specific trades. They were not vague allegories, they looked like real people. Yet municipal records often list no commissioning biography, no birth or death record, no traceable identity. The monuments were celebrated with ceremonies, documented in newspapers, and then, over time, their stories faded into silence. What began as public recognition ended in anonymity. At first glance, this might seem ordinary. After all, allegorical statues have existed for centuries. But here is where the anomaly deepens. Traditional allegories are symbolic and stylized. Lady Justice carries scales. Liberty holds a torch. These figures are clearly conceptual. Yet the statues from this period resemble portraits. Their faces are individualized, their poses grounded in realism. Some even appear repeatedly in different cities with subtle variations, as though referencing a shared template. If these were merely symbolic, why invest such resources into lifelike representation? And if they were real individuals, why remove their identities? When researchers examine municipal archives from that era, another layer appears. The funding for these monuments was often significant, approved rapidly, and coordinated across distant regions. Within a narrow time frame, similar statues appeared in Prague, Paris, Vienna, Buenos Aires, and beyond. Architectural styles matched broader urban redesigns occurring at the same moment in history, a period marked by grand boulevards, monumental buildings, and rapid modernization. But amid this transformation, certain details raise questions. Why the synchronized timing? Why the repetition of unnamed professional figures? And why does documentation frequently stop short of personal attribution? Newspapers of the period sometimes describe elaborate unveiling ceremonies. Crowds gathered, speeches were delivered, bands played, yet surviving transcripts rarely identify the supposed honorees in depth. Instead, the language leans toward abstraction, celebrating progress, industry, knowledge, and civilization itself. It is as though the statues were meant to embody something larger than a person, yet too specific to be purely symbolic. The ambiguity sits in between, neither fully allegory nor fully biography. And over time, as cities modernized again, plaques were altered, inscriptions simplified or names shortened. By the turn of the 20th century, a shift occurred. New monuments began focusing more clearly on identifiable national heroes, political leaders, and military victories. The anonymous professional statues gradually blended into the urban landscape, rarely discussed. Some were relocated, others were modified. In certain cases, inscriptions were replaced entirely. The pattern that once seemed coordinated became invisible through normalization. But when viewed collectively across continents, the repetition is difficult to ignore. Hundreds of monuments, similar themes, a narrow window of time. This raises a fundamental question. Were these statues part of a broader cultural movement that has since been misunderstood? The late 19th century was an era of intense nation-building. Countries were defining identities, rewriting narratives, consolidating power. Public art played a crucial role in shaping collective memory. Monuments were not random decorations, they were tools of storytelling. If so, what story were these anonymous figures meant to tell? And why remove the personal dimension from individuals portrayed with such realism? Some observers suggest a simpler explanation. Perhaps cities chose to honor professions rather than people to avoid political controversy. By celebrating the scholar instead of a specific scholar, a monument could unify rather than divide. By honoring the builder, a city could acknowledge progress without elevating one figure above others. In rapidly changing societies, neutrality had value. Yet this theory does not fully address the striking coordination across regions. Cultural trends spread, yes, but this feels more synchronized than gradual. Another possibility lies in the transformation of historical memory itself. Records from the 19th century are not always complete. Fires destroyed archives, wars displaced documents, political changes altered priorities. Over decades, details can vanish, leaving only fragments. What appears today as deliberate erasure may simply be the erosion of time. However, in several cases, researchers note deliberate inscription changes, names removed or replaced with generalized titles. This suggests not mere decay, but revision. Why would identities be generalized after the fact? One answer may lie in shifting political climates. A figure celebrated in one regime might become inconvenient in another. Rather than demolish a costly monument, authorities could neutralize it, strip the name, keep the sculpture. The statue remains, but the biography disappears. Over generations, the origin is forgotten entirely. The monument becomes a silent relic of a story no longer told. Yet the intrigue deepens when comparing artistic details. Some statues share facial similarities across distant cities, almost as if carved from a shared reference model. Was there a centralized artistic influence? Traveling sculptors, pattern books circulated among workshops. In the 19th century, art academies trained students in consistent classical styles. Sculptors often reused poses and compositional structures. Standardization was common. What seems mysterious today may reflect the professional networks of the time. Still, the psychological effect remains powerful. Walk through an old square and stand before a monument labeled only "the engineer." You see a face with emotion, determination, specificity. You sense a life lived, but history offers no name. The human instinct seeks narrative. We want to know who they were, what they built, why they mattered. The absence creates tension. That tension invites speculation. And speculation thrives where documentation is thin. Urban redesign during the late 19th century was unprecedented. Entire districts were reconstructed. Grand exhibitions showcased technological progress. Railways connected continents. Industry transformed skylines. In that context, celebrating professions made symbolic sense. The architect represented modernization. The engineer embodied industrial power. The scholar reflected intellectual ambition. These were pillars of a new era. Rather than elevate one individual, cities may have chosen to immortalize the archetype itself. Over time, however, the cultural language changed. 20th century monuments became more literal. Names, dates, battles, biographies, specificity returned. Abstract professional tributes seemed less compelling in a world shaped by world wars and national narratives. As memory shifted toward concrete heroes and tragedies, the anonymous statues faded into the background, not erased entirely, but overlooked. The question then becomes not whether there was a hidden civilization or secret coordination, but how public memory evolves. Monuments are mirrors of their time. They reveal what societies value and what they choose to simplify. When we see patterns across continents, we must consider the global exchange of ideas during that era. Industrialization was not isolated, it was interconnected. Architects studied in foreign capitals, sculptors traveled, newspapers shared images internationally. A design trend could spread faster than we imagine. Yet even acknowledging these explanations, something remains captivating about the silence surrounding these figures. The blankness of identity transforms them into vessels for interpretation. Each viewer projects meaning. The anonymity becomes part of their mystique. Were they intended to be universal representations of human achievement? Or were they once individuals whose stories no longer align with modern narratives? Perhaps the most revealing detail lies not in the statues themselves, but in our reaction to them. We live in a time hyper-aware of historical revision. We question archives, we scrutinize textbooks, we search for hidden chapters. When confronted with patterns from the past, we instinctively ask whether something was concealed. That instinct is powerful, but it must be balanced with evidence. Documentation gaps do not automatically imply conspiracy. They often reveal the fragility of record keeping. Consider how many modern monuments might lose context a century from now. Digital archives can vanish, websites disappear, names fade from public consciousness. Without sustained preservation, even today's celebrated figures could become tomorrow's anonymous statues. Memory requires maintenance. Without it, stone remains while story dissolves. Walking through cities today, these monuments still stand, weathered, overlooked, sometimes photographed, rarely studied deeply. They are part of the architectural rhythm of urban life. Most passers-by never question them, but once you notice the pattern, it is difficult to unsee. The repetition across geography, the narrow historical window, the blend of realism and abstraction, it invites reflection. In the end, the mystery may not be about a hidden civilization or coordinated global secrecy. It may be about the evolution of symbolism, a moment in history when professions were elevated as heroic archetypes, when progress itself was monumentalized in human form, and as political landscapes shifted, the personal details became secondary to the symbolic presence. The statues remain as silent witnesses to that era's aspirations. They reflect a time when cities sought to define themselves through grand architecture and public art, whether honoring real individuals whose names faded or embodying archetypes by design. They remind us that history is not static. It is layered, edited, reframed. So the next time you encounter an unnamed monument, pause. Look closely at the face, the sculpted hands, the tools. Ask what values it was meant to represent. Ask what story has endured and what story may have slipped away. Because sometimes the most compelling historical questions are not about what is hidden, but about what we no longer remember to ask. And as always, the deeper we examine the past, the more we realize that mystery often lives in the spaces between certainty and silence.